Get this goat back.
All right, everybody. What's up? G.Paige here. Welcome back to the Free Game Podcast. I got one of my OG guests, Gabe, nickname the Bitcoin Genius. How you been, bro?
Good, man. It's good to be back on. Always good to be talking some Bitcoin. A lot of exciting stuff happening lately. So, good to be back on with you.
It's a little bit of everything happening. I mean, like the first time, I had you on the podcast, it was in like the earlier days. I was super naive to Bitcoin. I just put like a couple $100 into it, just watching it. And last time I had you on was October 15th. It was at like $11,000. And then once I saw Bitcoin go from my initial buy-in price last March, it was 3,800 or whatever dollars was its lowest. Within 1 year, I got this, we're not even a full year. I got to see Bitcoin go from $3,000 to $64,000 in 1 year. And that was probably, I've never been like so hyped in my life, bro. I just want to say big shout out to you, big shout out to Josh, because just seeing like my money become saved, I was like, this is insane. I'm here for the long run, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we were talking about it before, every new person you introduce into Bitcoin, whatever knowledge they start out with, the deeper they get down the rabbit hole, no one wants to go back up the rabbit hole. They want to continue to learn more. And, this past year has just been, it's been very exciting and very different than I thought it would turn out in a lot of ways. But it's definitely been an exciting time. And I'm glad that, you found your way down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and enjoying the time in there.
Yeah, man. It's so crazy because I remember like I used to like think I knew what money was. I'm like, oh, it's backed by the military. But then, after reading the Bitcoin Standard, after seeing the Bitcoin community on Twitter, YouTube videos, podcasts, it's like your third eye opens up, like no exaggeration. It was super crazy. And then just seeing how everything like Bitcoin, like whenever you see people on Twitter say Bitcoin fixes everything, that they're literally not kidding. You fix the money, you fix the world's problems. And that's, the first little topic I want to hit on. Our good old buddy, I still like him for his cool cars and shit, but Elon Musk, how do you feel about, a couple of his just weird Elon Muskness? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I knew we'd have to talk about him because, it is, to me, as a Bitcoiner, it is a little bit of a disappointment that one guy's opinion can have such an influence on, the sentiment of the market in a given day. And so I think that overall, Elon Musk is obviously an incredibly innovative guy, and he is one of the most future-oriented guys that is on the planet, and he's obviously developed a lot of success from that. And so I do think that he understands that cryptocurrency, and especially Bitcoin, have an important part to play in the future of our financial system. And so I think that you saw his Tesla purchase, and then just kind of things got a little bit strange after that. And so I'm kind of just looking for him to really like, what is he actually trying to do, like with all the stuff that he's saying? And I think we'll talk a little bit more about this stuff here, but I just think that if we actually understood, what does he actually want to the future of cryptocurrency to look like? Is it Dogecoin related? Is it Bitcoin related? It's hard to tell exactly what he's thinking. And so I'm not exactly sure how to feel about it. I am just, like I said, though, if one guy's opinion can have such an impact on not only the price, but just how everybody thinks about the asset overall, we still have, I think that's just a sign of how early we are, and that we have a lot of room to grow.
The biggest thing I love to hear, bro, is everyone say that like we're still early, which we are. And that's what I love, because a couple of people asked me like, hey man, I'm buying SafeMoon. Should I buy Dogecoin? All these shit coins, shitcoin, altcoins, whatever you want to call them. But like, at the end of the day, I'm like, look, man, like the adoption is even where it could be for hyper Bitcoinization, whatever they want to call it. Like we are so early in terms of, not a lot of countries, have it as legal tender. We just saw, with El Salvador, we'll touch on that later. But I think whenever I'm seeing people that have, been buying Bitcoin since it was $1 or $100, they're like, yeah, man, like I thought I was late whenever I bought it at $100 compared to people that bought it at 50. And then like, I thought I was late when I was buying it at $3 grand. And then now it's people think, oh, like, am I late buying it at, 64K? And then it goes back down to 36. They're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't buy it now because I saw how volatile it can be. But then at the end of the day, when, looking at Bitcoin's code, like how it's literally made to save your money over time. And then, with the government, we have all these Bitcoin advertisements. We keep seeing like stimulus printing, the money machine go burp. We're seeing I remember Biden's first proposal was $6 trillion. So in my head, it's like, if the US is doing that, let's really look at global debt, because at the end of the day, if the US dollar is inflated and the US dollar is represented as a global currency reserve, then what's the rest of the world going to look like? So that's why, with the whole Elon Musk thing, I think it's kind of good for the market, because a lot of people, I think whenever he first bought it, they're like, okay, one of the greatest innovators of our time bought Bitcoin. And then now whenever he goes back and forth between Bitcoin and Doge, I think at times a lot of people just aren't caring that much anymore. They're like, all right, he just wants attention. He's kind of a hype beast on Twitter. I mean, at times, some of them are funny, but then like when I'm like, hey, dude, some people you're really messing with their money. Some people really get like a lot of coin and they're just like,
Sure.
yeah. And then I think one of the craziest things I see is a lot of these whales are selling and then buying, like they're really trying to get, us retail investors to sell our coin just to buy it, back at them higher. How do you feel about like the whales, trying to manipulate the market, like trying to get the, lettuce hands and paper hand retailers to sell? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that just speaks to like where we are in the cycle of Bitcoin's life, is that these institutions are finally understanding what Bitcoin is. It's a serious financial asset that can empower people all over the world to take ownership of their wealth. And as these people with a lot of money are entering into the marketplace, we're subject to some more volatility, which we have seen over the past couple months. And honestly, like, who knows what is going to happen like today or tomorrow, like with all this stuff going on. Who knows if there's going to be a big entrant that's coming into the marketplace the next day, or somebody that decides, to sell a lot of Bitcoin. I think it's always important during times like these that we need to, my favorite thing in Bitcoin is zoom out. Like, if you understand like what Bitcoin stands to achieve about changing the way we think about money and changing the way we interact with one another in an economy, that process just is going to be volatile to get to where we can get to in the future. So Bitcoin has only been around 13 years, 12 years. We are so early on in its life cycle of becoming a global reserve currency. If that's I think that's really where we can get to. And so if that's actually where the future is going to take us, we're going to have a lot of volatility, a lot of people entering the marketplace. And so yeah, there's like a lot of hype going on around it because of big institutions, a lot of retail people entering the marketplace. Zoom out, take a step back and look at where Bitcoin started out, zero, from absolutely nothing, like some random corner of the internet, where these guys are just talking about how to build a money that's outside of the control of government. And here we are 12, 13 years later, and Bitcoin surpassed $1 trillion market cap at some point. And I think we have a lot longer to go from here.
Yeah, it's I actually like how you hit that, because I think what's his name, Hal Finney, he said like once it gained any value, it was like set in stone. And then like once I started looking more into him, and then just seeing really some of its characteristics, because a lot of people in the US, we are a first world country, we don't really have to care about money that much.
Exactly.
A lot of us here, we can buy stocks, open up a bank account. But whenever you look at countries like Venezuela, I think it's Turkey, Nigeria.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot of these countries like facing hyperinflation. A lot of them are under authoritarian government. For people out there that don't really know what authoritarian is, that's basically the government decides what you do. The government decides what you buy. And then I think even here in the stateside, like, a lot of minorities don't have bank accounts. A lot of minorities get denied, bank loans, through some systemic issues. That's why, like with Bitcoin, like me personally, I'm trying to get more, Black people into it, because historically we don't have generational wealth, from Black Wall Street being burnt down to systemic racism in the banking system to redlining, et cetera, et cetera. But I think with Bitcoin, we finally have a technology and an asset that can't be stopped. It can't be seized. It can't be, like Bitcoin accepts anyone, it's like, say if you're someone that, that's working at McDonald's, and you're a hard worker but no bank accounts because you don't have a good credit score, things like that. If you dollar cost average your Bitcoin, you could be in the top elite class of like the next generation. So that's why, like, just like once I really learned about Bitcoin, once I really just stopped looking at the US dollar price and really looked at it as freedom, because that's really what it is.
Exactly.
It was like, it was life changing, bro. Like that's, and you were a mathematics major. Like I just like did like 6 years of like, business school or whatever. Bitcoin has been way more interesting than that. It like, I felt like once I learned like truly what
No
it is,
doubt.
yeah, like you understand. It's like,
Yep.
it's almost like, why didn't anybody tell me about this? And then, obviously, but if you read the book, The Bitcoin Standard, they kind of show you how the government pays, colleges funding. So like there was a time Keynesian said, hey, bro, we're going to aggregate spend. We're going to increase the money supply, and we're going to go do some wars, because war is business, man.
Yep.
So yeah, it's life changing. Anyone out there, we're going to dive in a whole bunch of stuff, but one of the things I really want to hit on, is some of the biggest issues with Bitcoin that people keep bringing up are it's used by hackers for ransomware. But something that actually just happened today, that colonial pipeline that happened, like in that happened by some Russian group. It was like for like the gas colonial pipeline. They had to pay like $4 million in Bitcoin. They actually got the funds back today, and they actually were able to recover that money. So how do you feel this plays out? Because now the government, from what we've seen, I'm sure you've been through it. The biggest thing that you've saw in terms of FUD for Bitcoin has been, Ponzi scheme, and then from that, and then now that the government cannot use, or even the media outlets can't use this whole that you can't track it from cyber attacks. How, like, what do you think will be their next, anti-Bitcoin, propaganda?
I think one of the biggest ones we've seen lately is the environmental impact of Bitcoin, and how the Bitcoin mining infrastructure is, according to a lot of mainstream media is not environmentally friendly, and that has been, especially even like with Tesla. That was one of the reasons where Elon came out and said, we're having some second thoughts about Bitcoin and its impact on the environment. But I think that if you actually understand how Bitcoin mining works, yes, miners do seek out the cheapest sources of electricity in order to mine their Bitcoin and run their operations. They are incentivized over time to lower those costs and find greener sources of energy, as to promote that within the space, and become leaders in that area. And now we're seeing a lot of mining companies proving that, hey, like we are very renewable, like we are way more on the renewable side than on the non-renewable side. And with recent developments like China becoming less friendly toward Bitcoin mining within their country, we're seeing some of the hash power displaced out of China and into new places. And hopefully, that brings like more mining to the United States. And so I think as just the message gets around that, Bitcoin does not, like with its energy usage and its electricity production, you basically just need to understand that like miners pay for their electricity, and we don't like we don't judge any other use of electricity like by anyone else. Like no one says anything about people running washing machines or choosing to use a specific sort of, like, as long as you're paying for your electricity, whether it's part of the grid or whatever. That's exactly what these miners are doing. And so once again, you just got to take a step back and actually understand, like, what is the actual environmental impact that these miners are having, and not let these media outlets that have done an hour's worth of research let you think that Bitcoin is like boiling the oceans and destroying the world, where I think the opposite is true, where it's actually promoting a greener future for us, and it can be a big part of the energy and the energy industry in the future. So I think that has been pretty big lately. I look forward to that stuff to just die down as time goes on.
Yeah, and then like, I think the coolest thing about us in today's day and age, you really cannot lie to people anymore. You can try, but shout out to the accounts like Bitcoin Archive, documenting Bitcoin. Like I remember like last week they had a post where they showed it was like 8 different news sources that all had the same thing. It all had the same wording. It all had the same about the energy. And I'm like, yeah, see, like the common person sees that, oh, okay, I'm gonna sell my little bit of Bitcoin. I have, paper hands. But then, the people like you, the OGs, the people that have got in and like, have read the right resources, they're like, yeah, this is typical FUD. Like, because
Yep.
because whenever you talk about energy consumption, like some cool things that I've saw were, that makes me more pro Bitcoin. Look how much energy the financial system consumes, from
Hmm.
ATMs to their giant buildings. Shoot, like to these, like if you go to any big city, what are the biggest buildings? The PNCs, the Fargo banks.
That's right.
You think like just off of carbon, all the humans in there, that's one thing. You have all these electric machines, like, and it's for me, and something that really they hit on in the Bitcoin standard book is this is the first time we were able to turn electricity into hard money. And once you can do something
That's right.
like that, it's like if the whole entire world's trying to go like this zero carbon efficiency by 2030 or whatever, wouldn't it be very ideal to use a decentralized money that is made from electricity? And like you said, with the whole I love to see the miners come out of China. I also know that a lot of those miners there, they've been selling their Bitcoins because
Hmm.
they're in one of those positions where, okay, we got to sell because our government is authoritarian. I'm actually very happy to see a lot of those miners come out, because that was more FUD, because I saw a lot of media out saying, China, I mean, Bitcoin is just like a Chinese asset, because at one point they had like 70% of like the mining control. So now,
Right.
like you said, it's more displaced. I'm very excited to see, like how that develops. And, going off of that, I think one of the bigger problems that people saw is, can't use it for transactions, because, whenever it does get popular again, the hash rate's going to go up. The cost of the fees is going to go crazy. Could you like hit on a little bit about the Lightning Network? It's a
Hmm.
layer two, and, just like talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So Bitcoin, if you don't know, has some scaling issues that cause it to limit the number of transactions that can take place on the base layer, because that maintains the decentralized nature of the network. So in order to like see, all of the transactions that take place on the Bitcoin network, any user needs to be able to run a full node so that they can validate the supply limitations and ensure that no extra coins are being produced, or that no transactions are invalid. And so there can't be that many transactions that take place on that base layer, because the memory of the blockchain has to stay low enough so that anyone can run a node. The Lightning Network is a proposed layer two solution that is built on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. And it allows people to open channels with one another, and transact at a much lower cost than at the base layer, and with greater speed, transaction speed, and more throughput, so that more people can transact at one time. There are other projects that are similar to Lightning, like the Liquid network that's built on top of Bitcoin as well, which is like a side chain that's run by Blockstream. It's like a company. And so we are seeing more and more developments where people are trying to figure out exactly what the best way is to scale Bitcoin in order to make it the currency of the internet. If you heard Jack Dorsey this past weekend at speaking at the Bitcoin conference, he basically was just talking about the vision of turning Bitcoin into the currency of the internet.
Yes.
And like I said earlier, it's still very early on in the life cycle of Bitcoin. People are still figuring out exactly what people are demanding in the marketplace, what they want Bitcoin to look like, and how they can facilitate that happening. And so you have projects like Square Crypto, Strike, that is built on Lightning. A lot of these projects that are trying to, like I said, improve the scalability of Bitcoin. And so we just kind of have to see where it goes from here. We have a lot of testing that's being done. And I think it's very promising that very soon you're going to see a lot of innovation in this space. Look at guys like Jack Mallers, what he's building on Strike, what he did in El Salvador recently. It's very exciting stuff. And I think that Bitcoin is going to see a lot of big development news here soon, because of people, the energy in the space, and what the vision that people want to facilitate, seeing through in the future. So yeah, pretty cool. Lightning Network is cool. You guys should check it out sometime. Just send some Bitcoin for a very low fee.
Yeah, it's crazy you hit on that, because something that a lot of people don't know, like a node, it's basically a node. It's like how you confirm like transactions, how you can create your own wallet. And then one of the coolest things about the nodes in Bitcoin is, like you said, anyone can make one. You can almost make one out of anything. Anyone can be a validator on the network with their node. The thing I saw that like I personally didn't like too much is like Ethereum's moving to like a proof of stake, which is kind of like using like nodes for validating. And the only thing I didn't like that kind of like made it weird and more centralized is I think you need like 32 Ethereum minimum to run a full node. So like, whenever I thought, I'm like, okay, well, some people have been in it a while, they're going to have 32 Ethereum, because I think it's priced currently like two to $3 grand a piece. But just to say that you have to have X amount of that coin just to run a full node, to run a full validator, that does make it centralized already there. So, being that Bitcoin, anyone can run a node. I could literally go buy a Raspberry Pi right now, run a node myself, and, anyone can, contribute
Right.
to the network. That's truly the beauty of it. And, it's, to me, it's like some things that a lot of them were hitting, there's a couple other coins that I think, have use cases will, ultimately be here in the future. But when it comes to something that anyone can use, from being in Africa, United States, China, wherever, I think Bitcoin is the answer, because it's, it's cost efficient. If you want to run a node, it's, you really can't stop it, because it's, it does what it wants. The craziest thing that, I saw is, like whenever I got in, it was only going up. But I think the coolest thing I saw with Bitcoin that made me go, wow, that's crazy. Whenever it hit 64,000, and then whenever it dropped to 35,000, without any delays, it didn't shut down. It kept running. It didn't need a bailout from anyone. It didn't, need to like redevelop and upgrade. I was like, damn, that's literally crazy. With all this FUD and, destruction of like propaganda, it just kept running. The engine kept going, because the market decides, its value. The market decides, what happens in terms of the upgrades. And like, just for you, because you've been in Bitcoin since what, 2018, 2017?
Yeah, right around there.
Yes. So how was it at times, whenever you saw like your money go up, down, sideways, and backwards? Like, what are some things you kept like, telling yourself to remind you that this is perfectly natural, this happens, especially with all these corrections that we're seeing in this current bull market?
Yeah. So I got into Bitcoin. I first bought Bitcoin back in 2017. Learned about it in the summer in between college there, and Bitcoin was the very first thing that caught my eye, because I had some discussions with people who were involved in the space. Basically, had this one guy at my summer job telling me, "I just buy Bitcoin, like I just buy this stuff, and my balance keeps going up. I don't really understand it." So I was like, "All right, I guess I'll buy a little bit of that and
Right.
mess around with it." And then I think I went through kind of the natural progression of in most people that get involved in crypto, or at least that stay long enough to believe in the vision of Bitcoin.
Mhm.
I started buying all this other stuff. I saw like getting in on Tron and like some of these. I
Yeah.
got in on an ICO like early on, and so all I cared about, I was like, oh, I could flip this for a quick dollar or something. So
Right.
that was all that was important to me at first. Is basically it was glorified gambling.
Right.
And then, so I got to see the run up, in early 2018, where all those altcoins hit their all-time high in
Yeah.
Bitcoin terms. And, that kind of like shook my conviction a little bit. I was like, oh man, this stuff is kind of just useless. Like, I gambled all, and, I did okay. I made a little bit, like they probably could have done better, whatever. But,
Right.
I think that the real progress that takes place in the space happens during the deepest months of the bear market, and that was so true for Bitcoin. So right after I saw that Bitcoin still had a ways to go. Oh, sorry about that.
Good.
um, Once I saw that Bitcoin was still there to stay in 2018, where it still hadn't died yet. Like why didn't this thing go to zero? I started studying, what is money, read the Bitcoin standard. That's exactly when, I started to develop my conviction for it. And everybody who I listened to back then is still around in the Bitcoin space, and they still tell you the same message over and over again.
Mhm.
Believe in Bitcoin for the long term, stack sats for a very long time, understand where this project is trying to go and the problems that it's trying to solve. I didn't see any in the bear market. I saw no altcoin promoters talking about why Ripple was so important, or why Tron was the next global reserve currency, or none of that stuff was happening. But people who were involved in Bitcoin were actually building real products and educating people on the importance of sound money and how we can change the global financial system for the better for everyone in the world. And that is the problem that Bitcoin solves. It solves a real life problem that I think that you need to acknowledge when you come into the space. That's the first thing you need to acknowledge. Bitcoin solves real problems, and these other projects, I think that they glorify getting rich quick, and they really they don't solve the same problems that Bitcoin does. But Bitcoin is just built differently, and so if you keep a long-term mindset, I think that you can't be stopped in this with Bitcoin. You're the vision of the future. We just need to get people to understand that more.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, you know, kind of like how you said, like whenever you first got into it, your buddy told you to work, I'm buying it, just going up. I can only
Yep.
imagine what people see when they go on TikTok, because Dogecoin was mainly pumped up by TikTok influencers. I don't really get on TikTok, but like that's what I saw and heard.
Yeah.
But like the craziest thing is, I'm sure you saw it a lot during the last bull market, is celebrities do get paid to pump up coins. Like I remember I sent you the picture of AB promoting these nuts, and it's like, you know, it's just like any of the other coins. It's
Yeah.
they always have, you know, they pay off whatever person. I saw Floyd promoting like Ethereum Max, which is another shit coin. Anyway, so like a lot of these guys, celebrities, promoters, whatever, these ICOs, which is initial coin offering, think of it like initial stock offering. Basically, it's like they could go, all right, Gabe, you've been in the space for a while. You have 50,000 followers. I'll give you $20,000 to put this shirt on that says Dogecoin to the moon. And you're like, well, I just want to let you know, I don't believe in it. They're like, oh, okay, you don't believe in it. We'll give you 100K. Just take a picture in the shirt. That's it. And, you know, you'll do that. And then before you
Yep.
know, all 50,000 of your followers, oh, Gabe has that, I'm gonna buy it. And the next thing you know, the company's like, okay, now it's time to pump and dump. So it sucks because I've seen that with Shiba Inu, the anonymous creator. He actually sent half of the all of his supply of Shiba Inu to Vitalik, and Vitalik he burnt 90% of it and then donated 1.8 billion of it to like a COVID relief fund. And I'm just like, my guys, there's, you know, there is a king of the whole space, you know, like whenever Bitcoin goes down, your shitcoin goes down. Whenever Bitcoin goes up, it brings the rest of everyone else with it, you know? So that's why, you know, anyone out there, I'm like, okay, like you could try to gamble your money, you could, but you know, after what I've seen, I do like majority of my like coins that I have, it's all Bitcoin. Like I only have other altcoins so that I can buy more Bitcoin later, because obviously like I still get paid fiat dollars. Like my work's not paying me in Bitcoin. So, but yeah, it's like, to me, it's like, you got to look at the long term. You do have to stay away from too many altcoins, because people are getting wrecked. People have getting wrecked, and it's emotional at that point, because whenever you put your life savings into a meme token and you lose it, that's kind of on you. And that's also what I like about the market. It's so open and free that whatever you decide to put your, you know, human time into, which is, that's what our money is, it's human time, you could get wrecked, man.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. You got to be cautious with this stuff. I think that I hope that as more people are in the space for longer periods of time, and I think that this market is going to bring a lot of people that will stick around for a while. You just come to understand that there's just not that many like legitimate projects in the space. I mean, that's just like with any company. If you listen to like what Warren Buffett says about investing, he says that you only need to own a handful of very wonderful companies in your lifetime, and that will be more than enough for you to preserve your wealth and build wealth over a long period of time. And that's the same thing with cryptocurrency. There just isn't going to be that many wonderful cryptocurrencies, and so you see what the real projects are over time as you stay longer in the space. And yeah, obviously, I believe that Bitcoin is here to stay, and stay away from those altcoins.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like I need to retweet that, man. But the biggest thing for me, it's like, even though the price right now, I think it's like it had a little dip earlier. I think it's back at like 34. The biggest thing about me that just like does not make sense about Bitcoin's price is we've seen, Tesla come into the market. We've seen PayPal, we've seen Venmo, we've seen Revolut, and all these companies have millions of users. We've seen that banks are finally, adding Bitcoin for their high, net worth individuals. We see JP Morgan and all these ETFs and, pending. And then recently, we've seen El Salvador be the first country that says, okay, we're going to accept Bitcoin as legal tender. We are going to have 0% capital gains on Bitcoin. And they also have zero property tax, which bro, as soon as I saw
Crazy.
that, as soon as I saw that Bitcoin, that El Salvador accepted Bitcoin as, legal tender, I immediately looked up real estate down there. It's cheap as hell, bro. Like I was looking at the beach. I'm like, that's where the Citadel is going to be one day. Okay. I see what you guys are doing, but yeah, I'm sure for you, like whenever you were in the last bull market, you didn't see all these institutions coming in. How does it feel now to see like literally billions of dollars, coming into Bitcoin, to where you're like, it kind of doesn't make sense where the price is, to where it's easily manipulated. So like, basically to ask proper question. Like, how inspiring for the future has it been to see all these companies come into Bitcoin? Finally, let Bitcoin accept them, and just how does it make you feel for like the next year of Bitcoin, going forward?
Yeah. Yeah, I still think like yeah, like you said, the price is still subject to these this volatility because people are just trying to figure out what exactly Bitcoin is worth to them. Um, and yeah, like if you were around, a couple years ago, like you were always thinking to yourself, if Bitcoin does what I think it's going to do, there has to come a point in time where people with a lot of money are going to start to buy this stuff. And so,
Yeah.
what is that going to look like? Well, here we are living that out now, seeing what that is actually like. And so, you hear one bank's opinion on it one day, you hear another investor's opinion on it another day. And so I think that it's just very uh, correlated with, these people's opinions on it. And if someone comes out and says they have, something to say about it, um, we'll see, how seriously people take that. I do think that over time, people's opinion of it are going to start to matter less and less. I think that we're even seeing that with Elon now, that, when he comes out with, a tweet or whatever, saying something about Bitcoin, that if his influence continues to have a decreasing impact over time, that is very good for the health of Bitcoin. And so I think right now Bitcoin's just finding its range where we're seeing how dedicated people are to buying Bitcoin. There's this one guy, I can't remember his name right now. I've been thinking about it for the past couple of minutes because I knew I was going to talk about this. I can't remember his name, but he basically just talks about the dollar cost average army that has to live within the Bitcoin space in order to preserve a certain price floor. And so, like, this is just like some food for thought. If there was 100 million dedicated Bitcoiners that bought like $10 every day, like that's $1 billion going at Bitcoin every day, no matter what circumstances take place, that's $1 billion going at it every day. And so the bigger that army of DCA people who are dedicated to the future of Bitcoin and willing to trade their fiat for Bitcoin forever, you will continue to see the price increase over time. As long as that floor continues to increase, maybe we do drop down farther from where we are right now. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know where that floor lies, but there is a point where, Bitcoin will catch a bid by those people who, will buy it no matter what. And so as long as that number continues to grow over time, which I think it has been and will continue to do, over the very long term, Bitcoin number go up. It's just gonna keep happening. So I think it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's crazy you said that because like literally, I'm buying $10 worth of Bitcoin right now. I mean, just like
There you go.
to me, like it's so crazy because like I remember the first time I went to go sign up for a bank account, I needed my 2 proofs of ID. I needed like a proof of where I lived at, my social security card, all this stuff, right? All I
Right.
needed for Bitcoin really was a cell phone, and then like it's technically anonymous, and like bro, it blew my mind. I'm like, okay, like it got to the point whenever I saw like my portfolio go up like a couple thousand, like you never tell anybody how much Bitcoin you have. That's
Mhm.
but once I saw it go up, I'm like I don't have a stockbroker. I don't have to go to a bank to keep, going back. They have to sit me down, tell me all these profit margin numbers, tell me about how like X amount's going to be in 30 years. I'm literally seeing technology work. I'm seeing breaking like, blockchain technology. I'm seeing something that doesn't have like a face to it. Satoshi, big shout out to him, her, them, they, whatever you want to call it. It's to me like that was the most beautiful thing, learning that in the book it talks about all the volunteer hours that Satoshi put into this, all the reaching out in the forums with like a Hal Finley and like the community whenever no one cared about it at all, like just seeing the amount of like blood, sweat, and tears went into this new creation for like the new generation of like the world, financial system. That had me hooked for life. And just seeing how early I got in, and people like, oh, what, you were buying like sub 4,000? I'm like, well, like it was, to me it's really insane hearing that, because I'm like, bro, look, even though you think I'm early, like I thought everyone else was early. Like whenever I first bought it,
Right.
I thought I was late, and then that's why it's beautiful to see like like institutions coming in. It's always a good thing because it helps get the common person into it, especially like MicroStrategy. I feel like having a company like with Michael Sayer at head, he does so much for Bitcoin, and he just got into it last year during the pandemic, when the pandemic started.
Mhm.
just seeing some guys like that get into the space, it's been motivating to me because I'm like, all right, there's a group of people, a community that actually give a shit about this thing. They
That's
care
right.
about it. And that's why, even if like a lot of people got out of it, I think, there's still enough people that it would keep running. It would keep working because I don't think I think from what I heard in a couple of podcasts, they treated Bitcoin like religion because with Christianity, it's never going to die out because once you have a select amount of people that believe in it and keep doing it and spreading it on, just like Bitcoin, so many people believe in it. There's like almost nothing that could happen that could really shut it off to the people. Unlike things like all these pump and dumps we see like BitConnect, like like stuff like that. It's like
Mm.
yeah, to me, it's just good to see. And then obviously the Bitcoin memes are like hilarious, bro. It's a good time. And what are some things that you're like excited about Bitcoin? Because obviously, you've dove into the financial like applications. You've read the Bitcoin Standard, which is the Bible. Like from all the stuff that I've read and saw, like reading this book, just the amount of resource over history, world wars, inflation, it's been insane. So like, what's something obviously El Salvador, that's pretty fucking huge. Obviously, people aren't taking it serious. That's why you're not really seeing the media talk about it as much. But like, what's like the next thing that you're ready to see that will be your next like oh shit moment for like the Bitcoin space?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, El Salvador adopting Bitcoin, yeah, is a much bigger deal than I think it is being played out to be right now. It is just that is just the perfect embodiment of Bitcoin as freedom. Like you don't need anyone's permission to use Bitcoin. It is the most enabling technology that's probably ever existed,
Mm-hmm.
and I am just excited for people who people who need Bitcoin the most. I hope that it can get into those people's hands, as early as possible. And I think that with this El Salvador movement, if it goes well, that other countries who don't have the most developed economy can rely on the Bitcoin community to grow and help them flourish as maybe a country that's not doing so well. So I think that that's very promising for those countries. I do think as far as people like in the United States, like right now, yeah, like a lot of us probably don't really like, we don't need this completely new financial system. Like it's not the end of the world. Like for us, it's not, do or die. Like if we needed Bitcoin right now or something like that, like our financial system is fairly stable. Like the prices of stuff aren't going up too much, but it just empowers people who don't have a reliable government, who don't have the assurances that we do in the United States. And so I look for people all around the world to be empowered by Bitcoin. And so as more governments continue to adopt it and continue to take it seriously, and that maybe this could completely change the way their economy works. If you think about like the game theory of it, so if this doesn't work out well for El Salvador, obviously other countries are going to have to take an interest in what is happening. And if they adopt it, another country is gonna. It's a game theory that plays out where maybe we don't need the U.S. dollar anymore if we're a small country, and we can just rely on Bitcoin network to continue doing its thing, and we can trust in that compared to something else. So I'm looking for Bitcoin to become the currency of the internet where everybody gets connected, and I think it's going to continue to develop. 1 billion users by 2025 is what I expect. If there's 100 million right now, we should be on track for 1 billion users of Bitcoin by 2025. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and then I actually like how you hit on because like a lot of people they don't realize that the U.S. dollar it is a global reserve currency. The Bitcoin standard hit that perfectly, and they even oil is priced in U.S. dollars. I think the biggest thing about El Salvador is a lot of countries in Central America and South America, they suffer from authoritarian governments, they suffer from hyperinflation, and a lot of them have the US dollar pegged to their economy. So for me and you, majority of people in the States, inflation to us, it's going to suck a little bit, but like, whenever we got that stimulus, we were like, oh yeah, we're getting money. What about the countries that have the US dollar and that actually use it that's getting inflated? So that's
Exactly.
why, with El Salvador, I I love that the president was tweeting a lot of stuff. I love whenever I love the Bitcoin threads. I'm like, that's good. Oh yeah, I'm gonna keep scrolling. I like how they were saying like, yeah, like whenever the U.S. did the stimulus, we're actually messing up a lot of these countries that have our currency pegged to theirs. So if you're a country like, El Salvador, Venezuela, and you really want to get out of a recession, a depression, authoritarian government, you want freedom, you want a currency that's not going to get inflated no matter what, something that's not going to increase its supply no matter what, because all you've seen is, central banks take advantage of you. All you've seen is countries like, the US. I'm sure we've done it, finesse you for your resources, just give you US dollars because we know that you need it. But
Mhm.
I think that now, like you said with game theory, what's stopping, like once El Salvador, what's stopping, Honduras, what's stopping Panama, what's stopping
Right.
the Brazilian president? And then, before we know it, I actually saw like a funny meme. I'm actually going to pull it up right now. Let's see. It's like these little like stick figure guys, it's like the first one, it's like the two people, one's holding Bitcoin, the other, the non-coiner, he goes, nobody uses Bitcoin, right? And then you go down a slide, it has a non-coiner and it has like, 5 people holding Bitcoin. It says nobody uses Bitcoin except speculators, right? And then the third one, it goes, it's like the Bitcoiners, little stick figures, and they're in El Salvador, and they're like, it's like none of the other countries use Bitcoin. And then the last, panel, it's the whole entire globe. And then the non-coiner, like, in the background, you have castles, Bitcoin on the moon, all it says none of the other planets use Bitcoin. And, like, it's, to me, it was hilarious because I'm like, that makes sense, because I can only imagine what you guys were hearing. Like, I consider you guys OGs that were here. I mean, it's you earned it, man. You earned it. You
I don't
earned
know
it.
about that.
Yeah, bro. Like, I actually met someone the other day. He was like, yeah, I bought Bitcoin in 2017. I sold it, but I was like, hey, man. I shook his hand. I was like, hey, you an OG, dog. I didn't even know about it back then. So,
Hmm.
so yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah, to me, it's crazy to see, like how the community is and how, like, I don't know, it's like these memes just make sense. Like they're really showing us we keep printing money, we keep doing this and that, and then, from what I've seen, a lot of people that are in the Bitcoin community, they're some of the healthiest people. They work out, they stay away from they're basically the good conspiracy theorists. No, actually, let's call them conspiracy realists, because they're like a lot of like Bitcoiners. They're like, oh yeah, I grow my own shit. Like I don't eat at McDonald's. Like I do this and that, because they seriously know the world. And you really cannot believe everything you see from CNN, Fox News, and then like we talked before we started the podcast. Once you get into Bitcoin, you really don't care about politics, because you know that they don't have your best interests in minds. They want your vote. And then, if you look at countries like Switzerland, which was the last country to get off the gold standard, the reason Switzerland's neutral, the reason why they have like, a high life expectancy, the reason why they have never been higher than, 2% unemployment, they focus on clean energy, all this good things, is because they were one of the last countries to get off the gold standard. And that's why, in the future that I see is, we finally give all these other countries a fair shot, a fair chance. Everyone starts at the beginning line. No one gets, setbacks. And what people don't realize, and I'll let you touch on a little more. Inflation really is stealing our time. And then once you get into like how inflation affects like the production of goods, their quality, over time. You want to just touch on, that really quick, to give people really the things you should know about inflation, and how inflation really does affect like the greater good of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is like a moral imperative, for a lot of Bitcoiners to argue against inflation and why it is really just, the stealing of human time. And that can happen very quickly in some places, or, that can happen very slowly over a long period of time. And what has happened in the United States and how they have treated inflation is that if they can predictably keep inflation low over a long period of time, the Federal Reserve thinks that they've done a good job, and that they're maintaining the integrity of their money. But what happens is those people who understand how inflation works are incentivized to go out and rid themselves of their fiat currency, of their dollars, to buy actual productive things. And so that's why there is just swaths of debt everywhere, is because even rich people, they use debt in order to go out and get productive assets that give them a return, better than inflation. And people who can't obtain actual, assets in an economy, the bottom 50%, actually, it's much greater than 50% now, they can't even afford a several $100 emergency payment because they have so much debt to their name, that they're paying 24% interest on, 20% interest on, or whatever. And so inflation, just at the very core of it, it is stealing from one party and giving to somebody else. If one centralized party can control the supply of money, they get to go out and give it to whoever they want to first, and those first spenders of it get to benefit before anybody else does. And that scheme has been happening for a very long time. It's like fiat currency essentially is a Ponzi scheme. If the people at the top get to do whatever they want to do first, and then manipulate everybody else underneath of them. And so I think we're starting to see that unravel as decentralized technologies are becoming much more prevalent, open source projects, Bitcoin being probably the most important of them. We're seeing that scheme unravel, and we're seeing the cracks in it and how people are seeking to remove themselves from that system. And so if you look at centralization versus decentralization, are we willing to let a certain group of people, whoever it might be, the Federal Reserve, the government, whatever decisions they make, are they making the best decisions for the people that they are representing? Mm-hmm. And if not, we should seek other things. And I think that Bitcoin is the perfect solution to having politics involved in money, having people's opinions of what money should be, what the inflation rate should be. If you look at Jerome Powell, he says, we target a 2% inflation rate. That's a 2% inflation rate according to metrics that they have of a basket of goods that they choose from. That doesn't include like real estate and other things that people actually want to own. And so if you trust them to make the best decisions for your money, keep using the dollar, and that's fine. But I do think that other people are going to seek networks outside of their control, likely to be Bitcoin, to solve a lot of those problems where people can't politic the supply of the money, people can't politic the network. And so, yeah, definitely want to be on the decentralized side, if you don't want to be in somebody else's control.
Yeah. And it's, historically the people closer to the money are the least affected. People that work in banks, people that, are in these big hedge funds, they're usually the ones that see it coming firsthand, insider trading, all that manipulation. And then that's where, like, I think the craziest thing I saw was, I actually saw the movie The Big Short. I was texting you guys whenever I first saw it. I was like, man, where's this movie been? That's what happened. Like that's what happened in 2008. Because no one likes to talk about the 2008 financial crisis, but right. At the end of the movie, and then I was thinking Brad Pitt, he hit on. He said every time there's like 10% increase in inflation, it kills like 100,000 people or something like that, right? So the craziest thing I saw was at the end of the movie, it said that like just in the U.S., millions of people lost their pensions or 401ks, and with Bitcoin, say if all those people had Bitcoin at that time, those stockbrokers, those hedge funds, they can't sell your Bitcoin. It's just in the wallet hanging out. But whenever you give your human time to all these institutions that don't have your best intentions in mind, you can get wrecked. And that's why, even with the stimulus, we saw a lot of these people that shouldn't be getting PPP loans get them. We saw people spending them on like expensive cars, yachts. We saw like some small businesses not getting them compared to others. We saw, some getting shut down as opposed to others being open. And you saw like COVID did become political. Like, all right, if that politician of that state, like Governor Newsom, he shut down like all the restaurants and stuff, but he kept the wineries open because he owns a winery. And, just stuff like that, like Bitcoin fixes that to where like you can't shut down Bitcoin. It doesn't matter if there's COVID or an apocalypse outside, your coin's still going to work for you. The blockchain's still going to be working. And that's why it just made me even more bullish, because I'm like, all right, no one can take this from me. Even if someone like, got mad and said, oh, we accuse you of fraud, I'm like, all right, have fun trying to crack into my wallet. Good luck. You can't do it. So, yeah, so just those things along, like aside, has made me so bullish on the future. But one of the things I definitely want to touch on is what are some of the platforms that you personally use, to stack sats? Because I hate when I hear people say, oh yeah, I bought it on Robinhood. I'm like, that's not your coin. No keys, no cheese. So
right.
What are some, platforms that you use for your Bitcoin? And what are some also, like possibly reward systems that you use for your Bitcoin as well? Because obviously there's a lot of companies are doing like Bitcoin cash back and all that stuff. So yeah, go ahead. Let's dive into that.
For sure. Yeah. It's like I said previously, during the bear market, when not a lot of stuff was going on, the best projects in the Bitcoin space were being built. And now, we get to use those projects in the bull market, and there's been a lot of cool developments. To buy Bitcoin, I typically use River Financial. I like their simple, easy to use interface. They're Bitcoin only. And so they keep it very simple for you if you want to do recurring buys. They have that available. Their fees aren't too high because they only deal in Bitcoin. I know they're only available in a certain number of states. I think they're almost in all the United States now. But I do definitely recommend River. Very secure, very easy to use. Swan Bitcoin is another good one to just for those daily or weekly or monthly recurring buys that you want to do. They have very low fees, and you just kind of set it and forget it. What's nice about Swan is like you can just have them send your purchases, your Bitcoin that you purchased directly to a wallet of your choice.
That's
And
big.
so you don't, yeah, so you don't even have to worry about them, holding it for you. You can take control of your funds right away. So those two I definitely recommend for purchasing Bitcoin. I've been shilling the Fold app to almost everyone because I think it's one of the coolest things. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't know what Fold is, you basically you can sign up for their debit card, their prepaid debit card, and you just add funds on there from your bank account, or you get direct deposited or whatever. You make your purchases like you would normally using your debit card, and then you get to spin a rewards wheel for every purchase that you make, and you're getting sats back for every purchase. And you have the opportunity to actually win a whole Bitcoin every time you make a purchase, which is pretty cool. And you get to spin a free daily wheel every day too. Like, you just get 5 sats or 25 sats or something like that every day, just for spinning this wheel. So I tell everyone about that. I have the premium version of the card, which cost $150. I've already made more than that in rewards in like 6 months of using the card, just by making purchases that I was going to make anyway. You can pay like your mortgage bill with Fold, and you can get sats back for paying like your house, for paying your rent or paying your electricity bill or whatever. So Fold is definitely really cool. I highly recommend that. Another good products if you're looking for just like security for your Bitcoin, I recommend Casa and Unchained Capital. So Casa allows you to set up. I think that they have the best mobile wallet. You just download their iOS app or Android app, and they have really nice wallet setup. But they also have the ability for you to use multi-signature security, so that you even have an advanced level of key management and your how your funds are stored. And the same thing with Unchained Capital. They also have multi-signature service, and both of them have just a little bit of differences. That it just depending on your preferences are good. But yeah, those are the companies that I like to use. And then there's a lot of other cool things coming out soon. If you're a Coinbase user, I usually don't recommend Coinbase a lot because they have so many coins on there. It gets kind of like confusing for people, but they are having a debit card coming out pretty soon. And as far as I can tell, it seems like you just get to go and spend your crypto if you want to. So like if you have Bitcoin in Coinbase and you go slide your debit card, like you can choose to spend your Bitcoin instead of spending your dollars or however you want to do that. So that might be something people want to check out. But yeah, a lot of developments, and those are the Bitcoin things that I like to use.
Yeah, and shout out to you because actually, I have the cheaper Fold one because like I was so indecisive. I was like, I don't want the 150. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try the free one, then maybe I'll go get the other one later. But yeah, Fold's cool as hell. It's you do stack sats every day, and the next halvings in 2024. So these sats today, how much are they gonna be worth in 4 years? And,
Right.
like I think after talking to you and watching a lot of people, like I'm not selling my Bitcoin anytime soon. I'm gonna put up for collateral one day. Like they're never getting my coin. So yeah, man, it's really crazy. And like I don't know if you use BlockFi or not. It's something that they, like I currently put a couple of my, sats in there. I did because I just like getting that reoccurring interest because I do like how I can lend out my coin to get more coin back. That's something I do love because
Right.
I was doing like acorns and all that shit. And it's like, I wasn't getting, it wasn't exciting. It was, okay, I'm buying Apple, Amazon. I think bonds. Oh, whoa. And, so like, whenever I saw that stuff, I'm like, all right, like, because some of the things I do, like I do dabble in DeFi a little bit on Ethereum. And then like, I do look forward to having more DeFi for Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin already is decentralized finance, but I do look forward to seeing more like, okay, yeah, you could lend out your Bitcoin to people to earn back money. Like I do like seeing stuff like that because it shows you how truly free of a market is because, say if I wanted to borrow Bitcoin, I put up, a collateral amount. And then, if like once I pay it back, then I like, then I get my coin back. But to me, it's been so cool how like, it's almost endless, like there's Sphinx chat, which is, for the people out there, it's like, I'm working on getting my podcast on Sphinx chat. Like, I'm in so many like,
That'd be cool.
yeah, Bitcoin rabbit holes. So basically it's like, you can have decentralized podcasts where you earn sats for people to listen. People are also talking about like there could possibly be like a Twitter version of that to where you can avoid spam, to where if you want to tweet, it might cost even like 1 or 5 sats, to where spam people aren't going to pay that much because then they would be financially in the hole.
Right.
So yeah, it's like, to me, it's exciting to see, like where the future's going, where all the tech's going, and then just seeing like how you can earn money on daily like spending. Like that's insane. Like if you ever buy a car or something, definitely use your fold card. I mean, that's you might get
Exactly.
half a coin back. You never know. But yeah, man. So yeah, but just hit a couple more things before we get you out of here. I know you're a busy guy. I want to see some more articles, man. Your Substacks.
I know. I've been
Like,
busy lately. I know I haven't had the chance to write too much. Unfortunately, I should keep posting some new Twitter threads or something. But yeah, I should definitely get back to it.
bro, it's the thing that I hated, bro, because I did this the other day, like, because I kind of felt like I felt your pain a little bit. I made this big, like Facebook post. I did like all the resources. I put all the links, like, WTFhappened.com, like
Yep.
the links to the Bitcoin standard, all this stuff, right? All the data showing like how fast Bitcoin became $1 trillion asset in 12 years, the cost of college over time, all that stuff, right? Put at least an hour and a half, 2 hours of time into working on this, right? I
Mhm.
posted it, and the only people that liked it were like my mom, my dad, and like one other person. I'm just like, like in my head, like I knew that was gonna happen. Like, people don't care until it's popular. But then in
Yeah,
my heart, I'm like, damn it. Like, you guys, that hurt because it's like,
I understand.
it's like, yeah, you put in all this work to like a project, working on a thread, or you with your articles, and you're like, wow, like I thought people would be more interested, but people only like it when it's super popular and everyone's promoting it. But
Sure.
the best time to buy Bitcoin is when there's blood in the streets, and whenever people are saying it sucks, it's stupid, they're not talking about it, they're going to all these meme coins. That's the best time to buy it, And then
No doubt.
yeah, it's a good time. Thank you again for being one of the first people to convince me to jump fully into the hole. I think, yeah, from when I talked to you on the last time to now, a whole different G. It's crazy, and yeah, thank you again for that, man. It's a great time. But like always, what are some sources that you would like that people could utilize, from like a beginner to an expert to someone that maybe has been in traditional finance their whole life, that wants to like find Bitcoin? Because obviously when you're in traditional finance, you're going to see the most FUD, you're going to see the most propaganda anti-Bitcoin. What are like some resources that you would like recommend for any of the listeners out there to really
Yeah.
truly dive into Bitcoin the right way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Bitcoin is a very interesting space where you need to kind of find how Bitcoin makes sense to you. And so, like for me, it was the money aspect of it. And so, the Bitcoin Standard was a fantastic resource for me. And we talk about that all the time. That book just made a lot of sense to me. Some people, are into programming and coding, and so they'll be able to understand, the blockchain aspect of it more, and why the open source code of Bitcoin is so important. So there are some, you just got to find exactly where you want to enter into. But a lot of great podcasts out there, a lot of great speakers out there. So I'll just talk about, the ones that, affected me the most. I actually recommend you go check out some of the speeches from the Bitcoin 2021 conference that just took place. Yeah, it was great. Jack Dorsey and Alex Gladstein's conversation about just making Bitcoin the future currency of the internet is a great discussion. And I guess on that point, I want to say something else as well. Make sure you are listening to people who take this space seriously. I think like their opinions of what's going on are just so much more valuable to listen to what they actually have to say, because you get to understand why Bitcoin is important, why it matters for the world, instead of like, all right, like, yeah, Elon Musk is, he's a very like popular guy and everything, but like, what is he even taking seriously? Like, how can I infer any like valuable information from what this guy is telling me? So pick your resources carefully. And so let me just go through a few guys that I know. Robert Breedlove is like a Bitcoin philosopher. Check him out on Twitter, and some of his articles are very good. Matt Odell is another guy that I like to follow a lot. He's very big into like the privacy aspects of Bitcoin and how you can use like Bitcoin anonymously, and why it can, just increase the amount of freedom that you have financially. Check out Matt Odell. He does a podcast with Marty Bent, Tales from the Crypt. They have a lot of good episodes, and they get deep down the rabbit hole of Bitcoin. Alex Gladstein and Jack Dorsey, like I said, make sure you check out that speech. And then Michael Saylor, if you want to learn about why a business and why a corporation would want to adopt the Bitcoin standard. Their MicroStrategy's website now has a lot of great resources that you can go check out. The guy from CASA, Jameson Lopp, who's the technical the technical officer at CASA, he has a lot of good stuff about how to most maximize your financial security, your financial privacy, using different sorts of wallets, where to go for resources. But just make sure you pick people who have who you can trust that they're going to give you a good opinion on that. And I think over time you start to see who the real people are in the space and who kind of are the enemies of Bitcoin. So yeah, pick your resources wisely.
Yeah, man. A lot of those you hit because I know you put me on to Citizen Bitcoin. You put us on to Tales from the Crypt, and I'm not gonna lie. Once you really get into those, you're gonna have a couple what the hell's going on moment, because you're I had no idea. It's with me and my Bitcoin journey. I feel like I learn something new every day, every week. It's literally insane. I saw during the Bitcoin conference that Charity Water company, that they've been accepting Bitcoin for donations since, their inception, basically since Bitcoin's inception. And then the guy said on stage, hey man, yeah, we messed up because we were getting a lot of coins. And, he said, anyone that gave me anything, I would immediately sell it because they're trying to give water to the world. But now they said that any Bitcoin that, you donate to them, they're not selling it or even considering selling it to 2025, maybe 2026, to where at that point,
that's awesome,
that they're going to be able to help over 100 million people or something crazy. And then also the Winklevoss twins, they said that we're going to match your first 50 Bitcoins with 50 Bitcoins. So just seeing little things like that has been crazy and inspiring, because once you fix the money, you really can fix all the poverty issues and all that things. And something I like to do on the show, I always like to end with sports, and it's crazy how Bitcoin's finally accepting sports now. I got the Bitcoin racing team shirt on right here. Had to cop that. But from what I've seen, there's so many NFL players. Tom Brady's in Bitcoin now. It's truly crazy how a lot of these guys are realizing their worth, because usually it's the athletes that don't come from much. So I just thought I could just stack US dollars, have all this money, it's going to be the same. But I think now they're realizing that, oh, just holding this asset or holding stocks, I'm actually losing money. So how do you feel about Bitcoin in the sports space, in terms of, imagine the amount of money coming into Bitcoin whenever these players get their game checks, get these new bonuses. Trevor Lawrence, I think a part of his contract signing bonus, he got paid in Bitcoin and some other cryptocurrencies. But how do you feel about Bitcoin in sports and even gaming and from racing that we've seen recently?
Yeah, I think that the NFL has become very prominent in the Bitcoin space, where a lot of the players are starting to become aware of what's going on in the space. I think Russell Okung has done a great job of promoting it amongst the players in the NFL, and he spread the word to Saquon Barkley is buying Bitcoin. You saw those guys, him and Russ were at the Indy 500 together, with a bunch of well-known Bitcoiners. They're down at the conference. So yeah, it's really cool to see these athletes starting to promote that. And I think that goes along with the sense of, just having that financial freedom. Some of these guys are dedicating almost all of their pay, to Bitcoin. So obviously if, these guys, with a lot of money on the line are willing to place their faith in the future of Bitcoin, I think that just speaks to, how important it is in the world. And, I hope they continue to spread a good message about how it can help people, all across the world, and that, if athletes want to empower themselves financially, that they probably want to adopt the Bitcoin standard. So yeah, I think more and more athletes are going to continue to do it if everything keeps going well. And so obviously there'll be the temptation for a lot of them to maybe start their own thing or promote their own stuff, like Tom Brady with I think he has his own NFT stuff going on, and that might be a good movement for their brand specifically. And I also think it brings more eyes into the cryptocurrency space. So whatever they do to promote it, even if it's some random altcoin or something like that, it'll still bring more eyes to the space. And I think that if you're listening to what those guys like Russ, Saquon, what the heck's the guy from the Chargers name that put all his Sean Culkin or whatever his name is? Yeah, he put all his money into Bitcoin. Yeah, listen to what they have to say about it if you're an athlete, because their opinion on it is pretty cool, and I think that they have a good grasp of what's going on.
Yeah, and also like a big side note, once you get into Bitcoin, you realize that spending your money, it's like once I got into Bitcoin, I stopped spending money because I realized like all this other materialistic shit was pointless. Like, like whenever I go shopping for clothes, I'm either buying Bitcoin stuff like for like $30 or I'm buying like, Vans, which are only like $40. Like I'm not really buying anything too crazy. And then also I'm like, oh, I think the funniest thing like a couple pairs of my socks like had a hole in it. That's just like a Bitcoin meme. It's like they had like the meme of like the guy that like had a hole in his boxers. It's like, oh, like, he like, oh yeah, I'm buying the dip. Don't worry, like underwear is not going to matter in the Bitcoin citadel. It's going to be pointless. But yeah, I think once you take the orange pill, you realize that, okay, like I'm spending money on dumb stuff. I think it helps people become financially savvy, and it really helps you, set up for the future. And I'm just excited to have this conversation in the next 6 months, because what, October,
Right.
November, January, November, December, January,
It was
February.
December, so
Yeah, so 7 months. So the 6, 7.
excuse me.
So yeah, it's been like 7 months since I had you on. So yeah, I'm excited to see what conversation we have in the next 7 months, because then it's like, oh yeah, bro. So before we get off of here, this is, like multiple different answers, multiple different calculations. Come this time, December 2021, what do you think the price of Bitcoin will be? I'll give you mine first.
Yeah.
I personally think from all this institutional wave, like the biggest beacon for me to put a lot more money into Bitcoin is going to be once we see Apple accepts payments or like Amazon. That's a big signal. And then the day, if I ever hop on Twitter and I wake up, look at my messages, if I see the US is considering making Bitcoin legal tender, I'm dumping everything I have into
Of
it.
course.
Yeah. So for me, I would have to say, I'm comfortable saying 100K a coin by December 2021. How about yourself, good sir?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of just been optimistic that, yeah, 100,000 would happen at some point this year. I'm looking for the price to continue in this range that we're seeing right now for several more months. Um, Not exactly sure when it will happen, but I think sometime around maybe August or September, we could see a lot more, resurgence into the space and a lot of more price action. So I'm hopeful for $100,000 this year. But honestly, just in that short of a term, I just have no confidence in predicting exactly what the price is going to be.
Exactly.
So I do think it is very possible that it could go over $100,000 this year. That's about a $2 trillion market cap. That would put Bitcoin is like one of the most valuable brands in the world at that point in time. It'd be right up there with Apple. So, if you think Bitcoin can be as big as Apple, if you think countries are going to continue to adopt it, then I think obviously we're going to see the price, go up. So 100,000 would be great. Could be lower, but as far as I see it, that's just more opportunity to continue stacking sats if you believe in it for the long term. So I think that everyone has been saying, like, is this time different? Is this time different? I really think it's just going to be, it's more of the same cycles that we're seeing where people are trying to front run the price going up. And as the price goes up, like, there are going to be people who are incentivized to sell, to capitalize on some of those gains that they've made. That's just the way it goes. And so we might continue to see some volatility, but as Bitcoin grows more and more, that volatility will decrease. And if it does, do what we think it can do as the global reserve currency, we won't see much volatility at all one day in the future. And so I all think we are going to cherish those. We're going to look back to those days. Man, I could have been buying some Bitcoin when it was 30 some $1,000s. And I don't think it's going to matter if it was 30,000, 60,000, 75,000, 100,000, whatever you're buying at. I think that if you believe in it for the long term, just continue to believe in it for the long term and continue accumulating. So hopefully 100K this year, though, that would be pretty cool.
Man, hopefully it stays low for the next couple of months, because what pisses me off. Like, I'll stack so much sats. Elon will fire off a dumbass tweet. I'm like, I could have bought that dip. Like, I'm like, bro, like, give me a hint when you're gonna, drop, like, put out a discount like that. Cause like, I love buying the dips, bro. Like, whenever that's the best thing. But like always, man, thank you for coming on. Everything Gabe said is going to be available for you guys in video form, audio form. I'm going to have links to his, Twitter platform, so you can see this guy drops some gems. He likes making fun of Janet Ellen or whatever her name is, Janet press the money printer button, whatever. But yeah, he's a good guy, makes articles about Bitcoin. I'm gonna leave all the links to the resources he had in here. And yeah, man, I can't wait to have you on again. Like if Bitcoin breaks the 100K mark in a way faster time than we just talked about, I'm gonna have you back on and we're like,
All
what
right.
the hell happened? But yeah, man, thank you for coming on.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, G. Yeah, I look forward to that 100K party one day.
All right, peace, love, and to the moon.